everyone. I'm Tony Fabrizio with Pinellas County Marketing and Communications. Today's Facebook Live event is titled Knowing When You Need Mental Health Help. We're holding this in conjunction with National Suicide Prevention Month, and we have a wonderful guest with us who's going to provide valuable information to help anyone in crisis. But first, we want to take a few moments to remember that today is September 11th. 19 years ago today, a coordinated terrorist attack on New York and Washington cost nearly 3,000 people their lives. Another 25,000 were injured, and many more have suffered long-term health consequences. We'll never forget those who lost their lives in 9/11, nor the heroes who were involved in the rescue and recovery efforts. We have one of those heroes with us today, and retired Fire Department of New York Captain Louis Kikas, who lives with his wife, Vicki, in Tarpon Springs. Louis, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tony. I know it's a very important day for you, and I'd like to thank you again and Lori for having me.
Louis, I'm sure you would agree that the old saying, time heals all wounds, really doesn't apply here. Many of us who are old enough to remember that fateful day have taken a few moments today to remember what we were doing at the time. Tell us what this day means to you.
Well, as you know, I'm a retired New York City firefighter. And as far as September 11th goes, September 11th is every day to me. It's important to me that I do my best to try to keep it going, because the children who are in school now, a large percentage of them weren't even around 19 years ago. So I like to keep that glow going so they can understand what this day means. I lost a lot of close and very dear friends that day. I spent months down at the pit looking for survivors, bodies, whatever the case might have been. And I was with a lot of New York City firefighters, my brothers, New York City police officers, and even civilians came down to help. During the search and recovery, we were trying to just see what we can find and maybe put families to rest with, closure. I can't stop thinking about the years that have passed and visualizing how the children have grown and the families have grown without their mothers and fathers. As a survivor, that's what I'm trying to do, keep the memory going so they fully understand what happened on that tragic day. As a survivor, I feel it's my duty, my obligation, that the lives were not lost in vain and that we give them the honor that they deserve. And to me, we must never forget.
No, we must never forget. And speaking of that, you and Vicki have been involved in numerous 9/11 activities around the Tampa Bay area. Talk a little bit about that and tell us also about that beautiful permanent memorial that has been created at Curlew Hills Memory Gardens in Palm Harbor.
Yes, I will. Well, we're part of the Curlew Hills Memory Gardens 9/11 Planning Committee. We have 13 members in the committee. And what we do each year, we develop a program that is presented at Curlew Hills at the monument site itself. And it's a permanent monument, and we'll get into that later. And usually attendance is 500 people or more. It's a very good turnout. It's very moving. What we have there are local celebrities, and our keynote speakers are always someone with direct involvement with 9/11. We participate in the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, the Palm Harbor Fire and Rescue, and also we have flyovers from the U.S. Coast Guard. We include in the memorial, we include a display of artwork done by local students, and as well as a display on our periodicals, artifacts, and memorabilia that were related to 9/11. Victoria also created a music video that we show before and after the memorial service. And with that, I'd like to show or tell you about the memorial site. What we have is the memorial site is constructed with 30 tons of American granite. The memorial is centered around 2 granite pieces that represent the World Trade Center. Between the towers, we have a rusted steel I-beam, 150 pounds, that is attached to both the towers. At the base of the towers, we have eternal flame that burns constantly night and day. Surrounding the towers are also 7 pieces of granite, each displaying the names of the New York City firefighters, the names in the police department, and Port Authority police officer that perished that day, and also a monument for Flight 93. That was about the only plane that did not reach its objective. The objective, everybody's a little sketchy on. We're not really sure where it was heading. Surrounding the towers, again, it's all the members broken down into the boroughs. And from the Bronx, the fire companies that responded, the people who perished, Manhattan, so on and so forth. And with the police department, they're on the other side, and it depicts where they're from and where they came out of. That's it about the memorial. It's very moving, and I recommend anyone to go there. And the site is open 24/7. Curlew Hill doesn't shut down, and it's lit properly. They have the eternal flame, as I repeated. And it's a good site. It's something you'd love to see.
Yes, and real quickly, there's an essay writing contest for Pinellas County Middle School students that's in association with that memorial. Explain how that works.
That's correct, Tony. It's cool. We started the essay contest about 4 years ago, and we have a member who's in the hospital. He's pretty ill, and his name is Jim Gentile. So we donated that to him. We dedicated that to him. So the contest, the purpose of it, again, to raise awareness about 9/11. It's for middle school children, North Pinellas County, and it just gives them an idea of what happened that day, and for them to put it down in words. The contest, we have first and second place. First place, $500 cash check, and the second place, $250. Now this year, and it's open again to North Pinellas, and it goes either the charter schools or the public schools. And this year, the theme changes occasionally, but this year the theme is based on My 9/11 Hero. And the winner was from Safety Harbor. So that's about it regarding the essays, Tony.
Wonderful. I'd like to close this segment of today's program by playing about 30 seconds of the powerful video montage that Lewis referenced a few minutes ago, put together by his wife, Vicki. And this will give us all an opportunity for a moment of silence.
Many years have passed since those summer days among the fields of barley. See the children run as the sun goes down, as you lie in fields of gold. You remember me when the west wind moves.
Lewis, we know each other off camera, and I have enormous respect for you and appreciation for the sacrifices you and your unit made 19 years ago and the ongoing efforts you and Vicki make in this community. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Tony, and God bless you.
Yes, same to you. Now we'll move on to today's primary topic, how to know when you need mental health help. We're very fortunate to be joined by Lori Elbow, a licensed mental health counselor and the Director of Clinical Services at Suncoast Center, Inc. Lori, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Tony. I'm really glad that we're spending the time to talk about this difficult topic today.
Good. Well, let me mention for everyone watching that this is an interactive program. If you have a question for our guest, post it here, and I'll relay it to Lori. Okay, Lori, what is Suncoast Center? What services do you provide? And what is the center's relationship to Pinellas County?
We're a local nonprofit organization. We've been in the community for more than 75 years. We focus on behavioral health services, so counseling, case management, providing medications for behavioral health conditions. And we also do all of the sexual assault and child abuse exams for Pinellas County. So we're local folks living here in the county and providing services for quite a long time.
Very good, very valuable services. I mentioned at the top of the program that September is National Suicide Prevention Month. In fact, September 6th through 12th is National Suicide Prevention Week. Suncoast Center is a zero suicide partner of Pinellas County. Lori, what is the Zero Suicide Initiative and how do we make it a reality?
The Zero Suicide Initiative is exactly what it sounds like. It's our goal to make there be zero suicides in our county. Suicides are preventable, and our efforts are really centered around that singular premise. There's a lot of myths around suicide. One of the ones that I wanted to share today was that when a person is determined to kill themselves, that nothing will stop them. We know from the data and the information that we look at to evaluate how we're doing on our mission that many people have had a visit within 4 weeks of when they've died by suicide with a medical professional or some other professional in our community. So we know that that's a place that we can intervene. The Pinellas County numbers for suicide has put us in the top 3 for the state, and that's not a place we want to be. We want to be ending suicide. We'd like the number to be 0 here in the county for the year. And we know we have to do something about this. We know it's going to take organizations from different areas of our community to all band together. And so we, at this point, have 20 and growing organizations joining in, each to do their part. And the initiative has focused on helping our workforce know what to do, how to intervene, how to come to the aid of a person who is feeling suicidal. We're coming up with common language and forms and ways to communicate when we might share or see someone in common. And then we're really spending a lot of time making the public aware. We want everyone to know that they can contribute and play a part in helping to end suicide.
Very good. And we'll delve into that a little bit more as we go on here. Lori, 2020 has been a very difficult year for many people for multiple reasons. We're 6 months into a pandemic, and that's created a range of stresses from financial challenges to isolation. What are we seeing in the behavioral health field in terms of the number of cases, the acuity of cases, the nature of the problems?
We're definitely seeing more people reach out for help. One of the important studies that we're following that's really recent is the CDC did a survey in July of US adults. And when they came forward with the results, it was staggering, but also it makes sense. US adults are reporting considerably more adverse mental health symptoms right now. Younger adults, racial ethnic minorities, essential workers, and unpaid caregivers of adults in particular are having worse mental health outcomes and increased suicidal ideations and substance abuse. So we know that there's more need out there globally, and it makes sense when you think about individual experiences. We've all kind of held it together in the beginning of the pandemic and worked towards dealing with crisis situations. And now as we go further along, people are starting to recognize the toll that has taken on them.
Well, while we're on the topic of COVID-19, how has treatment changed during the pandemic?
It's kind of interesting. A lot of us in Pinellas County, we're already using a telehealth platform, a video conference platform, like we're on Zoom and then through Facebook Live today. In some ways, it's more accessible. People who have access to computers and telephones, we can provide services in those ways. And in other ways, it's a lot different. It's a different experience. I think we have good staff who have adapted really quickly to providing a lot of services without having a person in a room with them. But I think for most people, it's more accessible. You don't have to drive to a location. You don't have to find your way. And, you also can find a private place in your own home or in your car or somewhere that you can have a conversation with a therapist or a psychiatrist. And I think that's really, it's great that it's available to people.
Yes. Lori, we promise to provide information that any of us can share with someone who's in crisis. If someone's feeling overwhelmed, if someone is having suicidal thoughts, where should they turn?
Well, I think the first thing to recognize is that we all carry around a device like this, right? Or many of us do. And so one of the easiest things to do is take out your phone right now and put the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number in that phone. The number is 1-800-273-8255. I know we're going to post it on as well. And having that number available for yourself or someone else who's in need, and not having to scramble to look it up, or even remember that you know that there's a number out there. It's a good thing to have in your phone. You don't know when you could need it, and it could save a life.
One person dies by suicide every 2 hours in Florida on average, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Suicide is the third leading cause of death for people ages 15 to 24, and the second leading cause of death for people 25 to 34. What if I'm a family member or a friend of someone in serious crisis, and that person does not want to seek out professional help? What if I'm not sure how serious the situation is? What steps should I take to make sure that my family member or friend is safe?
You can always reach out to the hotline for yourself in those cases. You can ask questions about speaking to someone else and how to offer help. But I want to make sure that I say that it is absolutely a myth that if you ask someone about suicide, it'll put it in their head. Asking is okay to do. If you ask, are you intending to end your life? Are you thinking of suicide? And you're able to spend the time to listen and hear what that person has to say, you'll be doing them a big service just by asking and listening. From that point, if you need to call 911 or you need to call the suicide hotline, do those things with them present. If they're not ready to do that, you can also engage in services with an organization like ours, and then you can have a therapist or someone else that can help and participate in that process.
For anyone who just joined us, our program today is called How to Know When You Need Mental Health Help, and it's being held in conjunction with National Suicide Prevention Month. Our guest is Lori Elbow, Director of Clinical Services at Suncoast Center, Incorporated. If you have a question for Lori, type it into the page and I'll relay it. And I don't think we have any questions that have come in at this point. Lori, so let's say I'm having a hard time with life. I'm doing all the things they've told me to do to stay healthy during COVID-19, and I'm still struggling. How would I know if I need more help?
I guess the short answer is you don't actually have to know if you need help for sure or not. You can reach out and ask. You can sign up and have an assessment to see if really what is happening and what you're experiencing is at a level that you could benefit from counseling or some other services. I think it's important to remember that sometimes the symptoms that we might have that we associate with being physical symptoms, aches and pains and things that are happening in our body, sometimes can be related to our mental health as well. So I know we're seeing a lot of folks experiencing depression, and that's the disorder that's most closely correlated with suicidality. But if you're experiencing a sense of fatigue that requires a lot of sleep, or you're never getting enough sleep, or you're sleeping extra, that's something that you could reach out for an assessment to see really what is at the root of that. Anxiety is another area where the physical symptoms could be a racing heart, or sweating, or feeling like you've had a lot of caffeine and you haven't. And those kind of things we can just associate with something going on in our body, but sometimes it's related more closely to our mental health. So for a full picture of your health, going to see a doctor, going to see someone for your mental health should just be a routine part of how you take care of yourself. So
When someone decides they're going to get help, they may call and their appointment may be a week out. That's fine in most situations, but what kind of thoughts or feelings require immediate attention?
The big worry for us around suicidality is thoughts of hopelessness and helplessness. So people will say things like, there's just no point. It'd be better if I wasn't here. You need to listen for them saying those things. And also, is this a person who has access to means for injuring themselves? So if we're talking about a teenager or an adult, are there access to sharp objects? Are there access to things that they could use for hanging? Are there access to firearms? So those are all things to take into consideration. And I think you also need to take into consideration, is there risk of them doing something impulsively? So even if the thoughts and feelings around sadness, hopelessness, helplessness are there, is this a person who there's been use of alcohol and substances that might inhibit them from not attempting to take their life? Or is this someone who is usually impulsive, and so that puts them at higher risk? So I think those are the big ones.
What about that person who falls below the crisis level but needs help, is in distress with anxiety, depression, any of those conditions? What kind of steps can they take?
I think they can start by reaching out for help. We have a lot of organizations in our community who you can call and have a first conversation with about what resources are out there, what services you might benefit from. And our community is really lucky to have a mobile crisis response team. So that's a team that can respond on site when you have a mental health emergency and help you get connected to services. The team is there because we recognize that not everyone is needing hospitalization. So I know a lot of times people think, if I'm suicidal and I say that I'm going to hurt myself or someone else, I'm going to go to the hospital. And so some people don't say it because they don't want to end up in the hospital. We have a lot of other options in between. That mobile crisis response team, I know I shared the number for that. It's a local number and a local team that can provide a lot of assistance. And then reaching out to an organization if you're already connected or if you're not, or if you're using your insurance. There are a lot of options of providers who are out there who are willing to help and will prioritize folks who have had suicidality.
Okay. What can someone expect from a first appointment at Suncoast Center?
So the first thing they can expect is we'll probably ask you a lot of questions, but you're going to have someone on the other end who is caring and compassionate and wants to find the best right fit for you. They're going to ask about past treatments. They're going to ask about all of the things that are going on right now and really what your availability is. So they're going to try to make the best connection with individual therapists to meet with you and set up ongoing services.
I think the question that may be on many people's minds at this point is, what is the success rate for people going into therapy or other services at Suncoast Center?
Well, in general, the average treated person is better off than 80% of those who don't receive any treatment. You know, behavioral health services sometimes are underappreciated for the effectiveness they can have in reducing hospitalizations and other more expensive treatments down the road. So getting someone to therapy or to a case manager or those kinds of treatments can not only save our community a lot of money, it can really have a long-lasting effect on that person's life. It can improve their life and how they're doing over having to get to a crisis state. You know, we see about 25,000 people a year for treatment at our organization alone. So there are definitely people who are using the services, who find benefit in it and keep coming back because they know it keeps them happy and healthy.
It sounds like you do. It sounds like you do have a lot of people using the services. What would you say to someone who still isn't sure that they need more help right now?
I like to think of asking for help in a way that is more in line with, okay, I'm coming from my annual mental wellness checkup, or I'm coming to do some emotional housekeeping. You don't have to have a big thing you're coming for or a big question. You can be coming in to see us just to see if you could get a benefit, if you could improve your mental health. And, you know, every time we're seeing people here, I recognize how much it takes to ask for help and what a sign of strength and resilience it is for someone to come in, ask for help, and then keep coming. So I'm always really proud and excited of the work we're doing here, but that work doesn't happen unless other people are coming to see us. And you know, our clients that we serve really are the people who I'm most proud of, and that is where the work happens for our organization.
Lori, I think that covers all the questions that I have, and we haven't had any come in from our audience. Is there any parting information that you'd like to share?
Just that there are services out there, there are people who are willing to help, and if you need the help, please reach out. I mean, that's why we're here. You know, it's been an interesting time to be an essential worker and to do this kind of work. And I'm really proud of everything we do as an organization and all the work our clients, our staff, everyone who's here does. And I'm really proud of the work our community is doing to end suicide. It's a tough topic to talk about, but I think taking a little bit of time out of your day to understand how you could help someone, put the phone number in your phone, it could make all the difference. It could really save someone's life.
Absolutely. We can help 2 people out from this program. It's well worthwhile. Thanks again, Lori. As a prelude to this program to build awareness for National Suicide Prevention Month, Lori did interviews yesterday with reporters from ABC Action News, WFLA Channel 8, and WUSF. We're trying to get the word out that if you're struggling or you know somebody who's struggling, there is professional help available. Thanks everyone for being with us today. Stay healthy physically and mentally during these trying times, and try to stay dry this weekend. Thank you.